Hi, it's Io here. I am curious about how you're using AI in your marketing day to day. I've put together a quick survey, which is only 3 minutes long, and to find out what's working for you, what's not, and what tools you're using, and where you think it's all going. It will just take a couple of minutes to finish, and it's going to help me to shape some future episodes that I'm going to be running over summer. So there's the link in the show notes, and I hope to hear your thoughts. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the latest episode of the Built Environment Marketing Show, hosted by me, Io Abbas. Today is a bit of a special kind of episode because it's one of those which actually most of my episodes do end up coming out of like LinkedIn rants or other things that have annoyed me that I read somewhere. So today's one, we are looking at one of my least favourite marketing things, which is marketing funnels. Lots and lots of people say that they're the best thing since sliced bread. You've got to have a funnel. You're going to use your funnel, move people down the funnel. And I'm like, does this really work for business to business marketers? So for me, they don't work that well. So I am like that. And my guest who I've invited on today, who's also a friend of mine who lives near me, called Anna O'Riordan, she also believes the same as me. So we are going to have a discussion all about the marketing funnel and probably why we think they're a bit too simplistic. So yeah, we'll start from that lovely positive angle. Hi, Anna, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me in my rants. I'll try not to make it too ranty. I'm Anna. I am a marketing consultant who has been working marketing for far too long, probably 25 years now, I think.
One more year than me. When
Yeah.
you start?
A long time ago.
You started in 99. I started in yes.
I started my life in L'Oreal and have spanned a massive range from FMCG through to luxury, real estate, education, hospitality. It is fair to say I really do not like to be pigeonholed.
It's so funny. So we're going from someone who is super niche.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't commit to a niche. My niche is my thinking and sort of more strategic marketing. So for the last 3 years, I have been running my own consultancy rather than employed roles. And there I really span all sorts of shapes and sizes and growth stages of companies. But basically, my passion is connecting people with products and places. That's what I do. And I don't use many funnels to do it for my sins. So you can shoot me down now. And then the second hat that I wear is I'm also co-founder of Esteem, a little space where we help marketers, but also businesses, to build the strategic confidence that they need and capability to make sure that, marketing's actually having an impact in their organizations. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I have to say that I did do your ROI, which is return on investment one, and it was really good. But I love.
You sound surprised,
No. But I mean, to be honest, I don't pay for many things and do many things, right? And no, it was really good. As in, like, I think it was giving people the language and the tools to have those conversations, which I think is really, really important. And, because we often as marketers get pushed back on, we just want leads. And it's like, actually, no, this is a good way to push back and show how you can demonstrate a different way and things like that. And I just thought it was so useful and practical in that way. So no, it was good job to you and Laura for that.
Thank you very much. Yes, Laura, shout out to Laura, Professor Laura Chamberlain, the brains of the outfit.
She's brilliant. I love her. Right. Anyway, back to funnels. So first up, what is a marketing funnel?
Well, it's basically a way of kind of visualizing how people move through that buying journey. I think when you asked me to come on after my rant, I thought, I better actually read up where it came from. And I believe, if it's true, because there's so many different theories around, it came from an American kind of advertising sales guru right at the end of the 1800s.
Wow.
And that was where Ada, however people like to pronounce it. People pronounce it differently every time. Awareness, interest, desire, action kind of came from. And it's really, I assume, a structure that people are using, which is a framework, a positive thing to help people understand that, people don't just buy because they've seen an ad. There's a consideration phase that they go through. And I have absolutely no issue with that. I think it's great. You just talked about our ROI course and how you using language that help people outside of marketing to understand that process. And I think this is one of the early kind of parameters of that. It was about getting people to understand why advertising doesn't lead directly to sales and what you have to do to get there. And of course, as marketers, we love building on that. So over time, what's happened is we put more stages in because we like to, go a bit further along the line. So you will see slightly different funnel versions around. So some will have an extra stage of consideration in there. Yeah. Some will have evaluation, they'll call it, instead of consideration. Some will have advocacy at the end, which is really, really important. People recommending, some call it loyalty. So it's about capturing those different phases and recognizing that it's not just we put an ad out and we get a sale.
No.
And that is a really important use of this framework. And it is something when I have a client phone me up and go, I just need more ads, we have this conversation. And I do use a funnel framework to help them understand the process and the theory around that journey.
But I guess it's that journey, isn't it? Which is what, and I think to non-marketeers, it's easier to have, it's basically a simple structure, isn't it?
It is.
And that's it. And I know, like, when I did my post on LinkedIn, I know some of the comments were, actually, I use it to explain to my leaders.
Yes. Yeah.
About awareness, consideration, blah, blah, blah. Because then they can see it. Oh, so what? We need lots of people at the start so that we can get to that 2 sales or whatever.
Absolutely.
That are massive.
Absolutely. And I think it has a role. I'm not saying funnels, I mean, I hate all the clickbaity headlines, funnels are dead, and that's not me. But for me, I don't think, and it was interesting to just go back and try and understand the history of how it's kind of evolved.
Oh, go on.
I don't think it was ever meant to be a gospel, this is what we are. And I think the funnel has sort of become a bit of a Bible in marketing. It's like, this is how you will do it, and this is how you will think about marketing, and this is how it works. And really, it's not. It's a guide. It's a visual framework. So you don't lose key stages. You don't lose sight of things that are happening with the consumer. But it's not, in my view, something that helps you move drastically forward. And there are a few reasons for that. The first one, and this is a big one, most buying journeys are not linear. They do not follow a neat pattern. Think of your own buying journey. It just doesn't happen. People will jump around. They will pause because something's changed in their needs. They might loop back a stage because, something else has come, or they might just skip stages altogether. So, visual representations can be dangerous. They can be really helpful for conveying something. But when someone takes it as verbatim and gospel and we must follow through these phases, you start to get into sticky territory. I
guess it's that thing, isn't it? It's like, how often do humans actually follow the rules completely? We don't.
What are the rules? What is normal? What is normal behavior? So this is the problem. Secondly, for me, this funnel it's not a diagnostic, right? It's not, what does it tell you? It doesn't tell you where things are stalling or dropping off or something. Now, you can start to try and measure, but measuring accurately, we know it's a big thing, and ROI course talked a lot around that. It's really difficult. And so if all your measurement is geared to a funnel, I think you're missing really important things. And I just don't think it's going to go any deeper. So actually, to do a funnel really well, for me, you start from audience insight, right? You start from what are the pain points, what are the problems, and what's going on. Just looking at, let's say it's an email funnel, because a lot of them are these days, God help us. My inbox is drowning, it's my own fault, but there we go.
We need more. No, we don't.
Especially not AI written. But anyway, let's say we're looking at, this number of people opened, but this number of people didn't. What's that telling you? It's not telling you a huge amount. And this is the third bit, it doesn't tell you, it's not predictive. It doesn't tell you because someone opened that wretched email that they're going to go and buy tomorrow or next week or next year. I download a white paper. It doesn't mean I'm about to buy. It doesn't tell you when they're going to buy. It doesn't tell you why they'll buy. And I think the really, really important point, I know today we're focused on B2B, so keep me on track, but the key point is, in reality, people buy when they're ready to buy. Not because your wonderful email, however beautiful and well written it was, has a call to action that says, this is your next step.
And what I also find interesting about email now is that some email clients, they actually automatically click every link to check it, don't they, for security? So like when you suddenly go, has that person really gone through every single link on my email? It's like, no, automatically that's what their email security's done, right?
Exactly.
So it kind of makes it redundant. And also with the Apple hiding, like where people are clicking, you don't really know
who has a picture these days of what's going on.
Exactly.
And so I think if you kind of pull back from the funnel and from the tactics, because funnel is really it's well, how can I put it? It is, I think, pushing people more to tactics than the thinking, right? That's my problem. So especially true in B2B, and this gets banded around all the time, but it's there. Only around 5%, maybe 8%, depending on what sector you're in, of potential buyers are actually in market at any given time. So if you're pushing out all this content in the hope that somebody is going to follow neatly through that funnel and say, oh, I'm in my consideration phase. Oh, I've made a decision I'm going to now buy. You've got a problem, because that's not happening. The 92% of other people, they're busy going on with their lives, They aren't interested. That is not to say they don't need to hear about you. That is not to say that they don't need to hear a message that kind of sticks in their head for when they might need you or do come to need you. But can we stop this kind of belief that they're suddenly going to jump through all the hoops and the different stages of your lovely funnel because you piqued their interest with a little download, last Monday? It's just not what's going to happen. And by the way, sorry, because I am a ranter.
By the way, I was like, okay, go.
On that download, if it's gated and they're not in market, there isn't a chance in hell they're going to trade valuable data with you. They might use, as I do, a junk email and get it, but they're not going to give that to you. So, this is where if your entire strategy is based around nudging people through this fictional funnel, because it is fictional, you are going to be missing, I think, a big part of the bigger picture. You're going to be wasting a lot of energy trying to kind of force decisions that aren't going to happen, instead of actually building trust, staying memorable, all those things that we know are really important.
And the whole thing is, if you have that trust and that memorability, then actually when they are in that 5% or 7% or whatever, that time when they're ready to buy, they'll be like, who did I just see who was saying stuff, right?
Well, I can give you a perfect example from my own experience in the last couple of weeks, right? Yeah. So I think we both know an amazing SEO, Alice.
Yes, we do.
From Milk It Digital over there. So I have known Alice for a few years. I've brought her on board to help with clients because I am not an SEO and she's really brilliant. Yeah. She is amazing. And I really would rather outsource that. And so I know and trust Alice. I know she's done a good job from experience. Now, I think, forgive me, Alice, I think it was a year, maybe 2 years ago, she kind of launched a DIY platform where you can sign up, subscribe. It's all in there. It tells you what to do, blah, blah, blah. And she's on the back end to help. Now, I've known about this. She hasn't emailed me to tell me. I knew because I follow her on LinkedIn. She put a little post out on LinkedIn a couple of years ago. Every now and again, she drops a bit about it. Interesting, not interesting to me at the moment. Don't have a client that would want that. I don't need it. Go back a couple of weeks, so probably a year, even 2 years later, and I'm sitting there trying to do something for a very, cost-conscious client. And I'm thinking, well, I can't engage Alice on this one because it's not that she's expensive, but just I don't have the budget.
Yeah.
So I thought, I know, what if I sign up to her great platform and do it myself and just have a little look, because I was doing an audit. I didn't need to do a huge amount. And actually, it might be something that works for them as a solution. So what did I do? I didn't contact Alice. I'm not in her newsletter. Sorry, Alice. I'm not getting any of that stuff. I went onto her website. I signed up for a month. I got into it and it's been great. But that's my point. This was skipping a million steps of that funnel, because the awareness was there, the trust was there. She's regularly in my LinkedIn, so I don't forget about her. We don't work together all the time. It's probably 3 or 4 times a year that I have a need for a client. But I jumped a million hoops. So if you're just doing the funnel, what happens to that person? The moral of that story is that visibility, and the right type of visibility, is what's really, really important. So that when you shift into the 5% that's ready, you're there, you're in the consideration set.
There is one part where I think the funnel is useful, and that is that, like the different stages, which I always get confused by, like the different tactical options that go through each stage. I mean, I don't always know what goes where, but actually having that range of content types and approaches, I think, is useful.
Absolutely.
Because that's that thing of actually, you've got to say that message and target that audience in different ways.
Yeah.
But I do think that part's useful.
I think as a framework, so then it becomes like a checklist for thinking, right? It becomes, am I covering off these phases? Recognizing people will come in to that journey at different points, right? And at different times. So yes, absolutely, as a checklist for, where do I need to be? And also for thinking, what does my content need to say? Because this person might be already in consideration. They might have a short list. Do I need, if I'm B2B software, do I need that dreaded page on the website that, talks about my features and benefits versus, all of that stuff? Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm not knocking it. My point is, if you just start from, I've got a funnel, and then you're not getting results, but you don't even know really how to measure that, I think you're missing a bit of a trick. That's my problem. And we know in B2B, it might look really tidy on your slide deck, but buying journeys in B2B are anything but.
Are you a practice leader who isn't getting the industry profile that you deserve? I often hear from practices who do brilliant work but aren't actually getting the visibility they need to get business through the door. Practices that influence the sector aren't necessarily the best at design. They're often better at positioning their expertise and getting it seen and valued by those with budgets. I'm Io Abbas, and for 24 years I've helped leading built environment firms build the recognition and authority that their expertise deserves. Drop me a line at io@abbasmarketing.com, which is AYO at ABBASmarketing.com, to set up a call where we can talk about how I can help you get a strategy and plan in place to get you to where you deserve to be. So what's your kind of experience on the kind of B2B front and the funnel and how that works? Because I know when I've done stuff, I mean, I have projects where I think we were talking over a 5-year lead time for a massive project, and then you're just there going, that it's more a case of me knowing that this is what we're going for, and then what we need to do as a campaign over a long period of time to reach those people, rather than it's a strict funnel, because that just doesn't work.
Well, I think the reality is, and you've said it, these are long term often, they're not impulse buys, right? So it's not low ticket value. It's often either critical infrastructure, new software. It's something that requires a lot more around it. It's not like I'm just going to go and buy a new notepad, right? So it's very complex, and it's partly complex because it's not one person. So my problem with the funnel when it comes to B2B and more complex, not just B2B, but high ticket value in B2C as well, is there's a whole wave of stakeholders. There's a committee, whatever you want to call them.
And buying groups is the one that's being used now, isn't it? With like kind of Antonio Way. It's that thing of it's not one person.
It's not one person. And because it's not one person, your funnel can't speak to one person, and you have to recognize that the different stakeholders that are coming through have different lenses through which they're evaluating, is this a good thing or not? Do we go ahead? Do we work with these people? Do we buy this, I don't know what, foundation cement support, I don't know, whatever it is. Do we sign up on a retainer for this facilities management firm? There are so many different things. And so the job isn't really to convert in that way. It's about actually recognizing the different pain points and the different needs and different perspectives. But you as a marketer may not be able to get into all those people. So I think from my experience, what's really valuable is setting up kind of feedback loops. So working really close with, I don't know whether it's your sales or your business development person or your even customer service, if it's an existing thing, to get under the skin. What are the objections? What are the pain points? What are the problems and complaints we're hearing? And actually tailoring your marketing to who you're trying to get to. You can wrap it up as ABM, you can wrap it up as whatever, account-based management. but it is a more personalized approach. And it's about really that human insight. That's what creates the value. That's what helps people remember you, because they suddenly feel, oh, these guys get it, right?
And they're helping me,
and they're helping me.
and they know me and speak my language,
Yeah.
which I think that speaking your language is quite amazing. When someone goes, oh, I read your website, and it just feels like you're talking to me.
Yeah. And the more you can get that feedback loop and almost, use their words.
Yeah.
Use their words, because actually then they go, yeah, I get it. And when the time is right, or, or even in some experiences, we had someone who's desperate to bring in one of my clients' softwares, but it was blocked by the CFO for obvious reasons.
As often does.
As is often the case. And that's my specialty. And so, we went the extra mile to understand, well, what internally, what does that kind of political map look like? How can we help you to look good and to explain and to overcome those things? And if it means sitting in 2 extra meetings to have those open conversations and be transparent, that's what we will do. Because actually, we don't want you to sign up to our software if not everyone's on board, because what happens then is it doesn't get embedded, it doesn't get adopted properly. And then you turn around and say it's rubbish and you leave a bad review. So, I can't stress enough, I am people first, right? And that's not just in terms of my marketing, that's also the people I'm working with or the people I'm working for. I want to get under the skin of that. And I think a funnel gives the false illusion of control from a marketer's side.
Yeah.
And the reality is we can't control this process. We need to work with the other stakeholders. We need to help and support them, but also shape what they're saying. I've had the situation in a past life where I had the most beautiful brand. It was fantastic. All the messaging was so good. And the salespeople were not using it.
Oh, God. So you were just there going, oh, my gosh.
In their infinite wisdom of knocking on the door, and there probably was some truth in it, they were hearing other things. So they were focusing on those other things. But what they weren't doing was telling me so that I could understand that and evolve our messaging. They were just going, this is like the marketing brands stuff.
Yeah,
but we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about this.
But I guess that's an important point, though, isn't it? Quite often, many people, depending on your level in marketing, you might not have access to customers.
No, absolutely.
So it might be a case of, but you need to ask the questions of the people that do, and the right questions. And it is always quite illuminating, actually, if you sit people in the room and you suddenly go, how do you introduce the firm? How do you introduce the firm? It sounds like 10 different firms in a room, right? And you're all there going, oh.
And it is a concern. And, and this is where, I think one of the things when you reached out to me on my post and you're like, oh, you're ranting again. Because I talked about the gurus and the AI prompt jockeys that are out there, selling their formula. Oh, I've got this magic lead gen kind of approach. Here's my framework. Steal my swipe
Steal my ideas.
Take
below.
my... Sorry,
Yeah.
I can't cope with that. And I wrote that post, as I often do, out of frustration. I'm very sorry. I shouldn't be allowed near LinkedIn when I'm frustrated, possibly. But
that's content, man, I find.
But it's real, right?
Yeah.
And it's because there's 2 things. The first is I've been around long enough and broad enough that there is no universal funnel. I'm sorry, there isn't, right? Companies not only are in different sectors, they're in different growth stages. They have different problems. They have, different levels of complexity of that buying purchase, all sorts of things that are happening. The macros around them have different impacts. So usually, and I'm not trying to criticize my fellow marketers, but usually what I find with these, my framework works, when I look at their framework, I bet it was really successful for the one sector that they used it in and got success from.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, and I'm not knocking it. But don't automatically assume that the next person who comes along who's in a completely different situation is going to get results from it.
Yeah.
This one size fits all, I've got the answers, I'm a guru, it gets my goat. And it worries me because I think people are spending money on things and they're not seeing the results. And then the net effect of that, not only that they've lost money, is that they think marketing doesn't work.
Yeah, but I think
That drives me mad.
but I think that people are looking for a quick fix, easy solution.
Silver bullet.
That
Always.
is it. Because I know sometimes I frustrate people in like some of my marketing calls. Because I'm like, to be honest, you can get most things to work in marketing if you do them well enough for the right audience. And it's true. And it's, in some ways, it's just like, what would you like to pick from the menu? Do you know what it is, right?
Absolutely.
If you want to spend 100K, we'll just get you everywhere. You just pay for it. If you want to, you know what I mean? It's
no, absolutely. And I think that's the problem. And I'm a nightmare probably in some ways for certain types of clients, because the type of client that comes and says to me, I just want this. And let's give the case of ads. I just need ads. Okay. Why do you need ads? Well, we need more people. Okay. And in one particular case, it always sticks in my head. I need Google ads. Okay, you need Google ads. So of course, I don't offer Google ads. I know plenty of people that do, but I have a little look around, and before I go on a call, I do a bit of research on the customer. The first thing I see is they have a 2.2 star rating on Google. So when I get on the call, I'm sorry, you don't need Google ads right now, because you're going to spend all this money, and what they're going to see is, the first thing they'll see is bad ratings. And, oh yeah, but that's just people with an active brand. I said, well, even if that were the case, it doesn't stop. That's what they see. So you're wasting your money.
First impression, right?
Right. And so it's the same with a funnel. If we just need a funnel, we just need an email funnel. Okay, but who's your email going to? How do you know? What do you know about that base? How ready are they? Are they people like me? I am so sorry to every research company and things that I have signed up, downloaded a white paper. I have no intention of spending money with you. I have never got any intention of spending money, because I'm a one-man band with a network of lovely people. I typically these days aren't working for the big FTSE 100s that I used to be employed by. I'm working for small to medium sized businesses who every single pound and penny spent counts.
Has to be accounted for. Yeah.
And it's not about direct return, but it's about, I will not put things forward. However, I will inform myself. So if you want to put stuff out for free, I will download it. 9 times out of 10, I'll download it and go, yeah, whatever. But, every now and again, there'll be something great. It will stick in my mind. And when that opportunity comes up, I'll get in touch with those people on behalf of a client or for myself. But, it's an organizing structure that is helpful to get non-marketers to understand the complexity of a buying journey. It's helpful for marketers to sort of sense check, are we covering off these
all
points?
The bases.
Understand our consumer, our customer? But it cannot be
the one size fits all.
The one thing that helps you convert. It doesn't.
So what can we do instead?
Well, I think I've started to touch on it. For me, it's about influence, and it's about understanding where does that influence need to happen.
Yeah.
So mapping. So spend a lot of time, understand that customer. If you can't speak to the customer directly, speak to the people that are speaking to the customer, whether it's, in a small organization, it might just be the MD, in a bigger one, it might be a sales team, it might be a customer support team. Start to build out an influence map. Start to really think about, okay, particularly in B2B, who's involved? Who can we get to directly? Who do we have to get through a chain of influence? And build your program accordingly, and understand that, yes, of course, awareness is critical, right? So all the different things that build to that, there's lots of tools in your arsenal. You might want to do the dreaded webinar. You might want to, do a breakfast event. You might want to do those things. They're valuable, but get the right people in the room.
Exactly. Highly targeted, 25 of those target right in the room. It's valuable.
Amazing. Amazing. And so much more valuable than then having 15 emails firing off for the next 2 months in this hope that. So I think get in the room. And when you get them in the room and you're hearing them, don't just think about what you're telling them, listen to the conversation, because then I think that informs your content strategy. So that starts you thinking non-sales, what is it that if these people start following our page, or our key stakeholders more likely within the business, what is it they want to hear us talking about that's going to get them to build that trust in us?
Exactly. And continue that conversation, the relationship, and meet you on that one-to-one stage. So in a way, the funnel is a better way of going, actually, this is our person. We'll start off with them in more of a bigger setting. And then how do we connect with them more on the one-to-one? That's kind of what you want in a way more, isn't it?
Absolutely that. And, as a framework, as a checkpoint, it's great. But just don't think that because you've set up 15 emails at a certain cadence, you're going to get XYZ sales. It's just not going to happen. So I think influence mapping is a really, really big part of it. I then also think, building a tailored plan, it sounds like a lot of work, but in reality, particularly with B2B, these are high value contracts. You don't need thousands of them.
No,
typically.
You just need to go into them in depth, understand them. Yeah.
And I've had founders, in smaller B2B businesses come and go, oh, I've got this target I've got to meet, I've taken some investment. And actually when you sit down and go, well, that's like 15 people that you need to get this year. That's not, and therefore we don't need some sort of generic funnel.
But that could literally be raising your profile on the topics they care about. Then
raising your profile,
having lunch with someone,
dropping them a LinkedIn message because you've seen something that a competitor did, not to sell, just say, hey, think this might be interesting. It's all those things. And then when can we come in? When can we come in and meet that CFO that doesn't really want us? When can we have those conversations? What can we do? And it feels like it's more time and it's less neat when you're selling your marketing plan in. But that's how life works.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't know if you read April Dunford at all.
I do. I adore her.
She is awesome. So, obviously she comes at it more from a sales positioning point of view. But one of the things that really struck me that she talks about is, 40 to 60% of B2B purchase processes end in no decision. And they end in no decision because the buyers are completely overwhelmed. And so they just do nothing because it's easier to do nothing, right? It's less risky. No one got fired for sticking with the same provider.
That's the driver.
For buying
Will I get
Microsoft.
fired? Will I get fired? That is it. That's what they want.
And in some of those, well, in your buying committee, you've got like a person who actually wants the change, who's initiated it. You've got someone who's probably terrified of it because they're like, oh God, this new CRM is going to expose that I'm not actually following up on call. I don't know what it might be. Yeah. You've probably got one who's just trying to avoid the blame. You've got one who's too damn busy and can't be bothered.
You've got one who doesn't want to spend any money.
Doesn't want to spend the money. So, once it's a bit, I always think of it, the three monkeys, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. It's a little bit like that. So when I talk about influence, that's what I'm thinking about. It's like, how can you might not meet all those people, but your key contact gives a lot of information away and you start to understand, okay, this is what we need to hit them with.
Sometimes it can be as simple as like you can help them write their business case or whatever they need to take to present.
Absolutely.
And like stuff like that. And it's like, what do you need? I can do that for you. And it is taking the pain so that they can go and present. What do you need to show to your boss?
Let me help you. Yeah. Let me help you. And I think the other thing is, 40 to 60% of B2B is not resulting in a sale. When you think that way, for me, the point of a funnel, therefore, is not actually about making a decision. You almost need to stop assuming that they're going to make a decision because more than half don't. They don't do anything. Yeah. And so I think April Dunford's point is, unless you can make the status quo, so staying with what you've got, look really uncomfortable, look like a bad option, people aren't going to move, right? Yeah. So the job of marketing for me in B2B and on these long buying cycles isn't just like a funnel. A funnel for me layers the hype of what you think is great about your offer at 4 or 5 points along through these stages until finally they're going to buy. No, it's not, because we know 60% of them go, I'm overwhelmed. I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to be blamed, blah, 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 blah. So if you can build that influence, you can build that trust. And how do you do that? It's through all the things we've been talking about today. It's about helping them feel you really understand their needs, what they've got, perhaps sometimes better than they know themselves. They haven't really stopped and thought about it. So they read a LinkedIn post and they go, shit. Ooh, sorry.
I'll leave that in. That's quite funny.
I was trying so hard not to be swearing.
So well.
But, they go, oh God, I never thought about that, but that is so absolutely what we're seeing, what we feel. It's about being there. It's about keeping in touch, but not in that salesy way. some people don't like it. I ping them off random stuff on LinkedIn. I'm not trying to sell them anything. It's just actually I've seen something and I've gone, that's really useful for that person.
Yeah.
They may never work with me. They may never recommend me. I don't really care. It's just actually, genuinely, I like connecting things together. And if I've seen something that's valuable, I'm going to do it. If you adopt that sort of mindset, I think it accelerates the process. And if you can do it in a way that ticks boxes for that buying group, committee, whatever you want to call it, my God, you're so valuable, right?
You're winning. That's how you win. Anyway, so finally to close out. So any resources that marketers who want to kind of go, not anti-funnel, but do an alternative to the funnel?
Well, I suppose mine aren't, they're reading, they're thinking, they're following the people that break the rules. So April Dunford, I've mentioned, you know,
She's got
reading
a great
around
podcast as well.
I think there's a lot there. I think there are people like Caitlin Bourgoin, who has her customer camp.
Yeah.
You know, so her thing is about why people buy. Yeah. So it's not obsessing about this funnel or model. It doesn't really matter because she understands what is it that makes them tick. And there's a lot of psychology in that.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite important. Anyone that I think there's a guy now, I'm just trying to remember his name, Chris Walker.
Demand gen, yeah.
So he's
he's not around as much anymore.
No, but he was the funnel abolitionist,
you know,
in its pure sense. But he's the one that really popularized this whole idea of dark social.
Yeah.
And the fact that actually, you know, and we didn't touch on that, but the conversations that happen
with your peers
outside and the things that are shared, you know, you ping me a post about something and we can't measure those things necessarily, but they lead often to those buying conversations and triggers.
I've got a podcast interview I'm doing end of August with she's a B2B person, but she does all that. She's completely transformed a research intelligence group. She completely transformed it and turned it into demand gen.
Amazing.
And all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be really, really interesting.
And community, you know, that's better than a funnel. If you've got people really engaged. Yeah. Now, community is a whole other topic, and I won't rant on that today. But, you know, for me, there isn't a funnel. A funnel is a concept. It's a visual framework. What is really important is context and content and how those match. And that's how you build trust and move through. So
I've got one more resource to add, which is Antonia Wade from PwC.
Yes.
And she's got a book called Transforming the B2B Buyer Journey, which is actually really good. And it's a different way of looking at how we actually target people. And you look at it and go, this makes a lot more sense for how people buy. And it's that long-term thing and, you know, different types of people in an organization. I think she's got like 5 buyer groups.
Okay.
Which I think it just makes a lot more sense. And you're like, actually, this is practical. This is how it works.
I think so. And don't underestimate, you know, the CEO's niece and the neighbour's, you know, dog and all the other people that come into play because that's what triggers it.
Yeah. How can we change that? That really just drive me bonkers. But anyway, on that happy note, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
I'll put links to you and all your amazing stuff in the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lovely to chat.
Thanks so much for listening to the Built Environment Marketing Show. Don't forget to check out the show notes, which will have useful links and resources connected to this episode. You can find that on abbasmarketing.com. And of course, if you like the show, please do share it with others on social, as it helps more people to find us. See you soon.